for my notes for today, obvious and essential, is that Romeo and Juliet's deaths are tragic. Yeah, they're actually tragic. This is a tragedy. It's categorized amongst the tragedies, right? So maybe it's obvious to say that their deaths are tragic. But it struck me that, yeah, if it's obvious, then yeah, it's also essential. It's essential to know that their deaths are tragic. And I do want to dig in on that because I have a related point for my subtle but poignant.
Yeah.
You know, I always look back over Aristotle's sort of breakdown of the tragedy and the rules. He has these hard and fast rules for tragedy. And they sort of work for Romeo and Juliet. I think one of the things that he says is that your main character or characters, they're not bad. They're not a bad person. They're not a vicious person, because if a vicious person falls to a low state, that's satisfying. You want that to happen. That's
Exactly.
not tragic. That sounds like justice.
Right.
So Romeo dials in about where Aristotle wants him to, which is not as a great or perfect person, or a person of great character, but a person of, moderately good character, has some flaws. And the tragedy rests in some kind of tragic or some kind of weakness, I guess I should say, not some lack of character, or not some obsession with vice or something like that. And Romeo does. I think it's his passion. His passion leads to his mistakes. His passion with Tybalt, he gets wrapped up, kills him. His passion with really the death of Juliet. I was struck rereading this that he asks no questions. When he finds out, when Balthazar reports to him, I saw her later too. Really? She died? Like, what happened?
Right.
Was she struck by lightning? Was she hit by a car? Right. Like, there are no questions. He does ask, were there no letters from Friar Lawrence? Okay, which is a nod to that. Yeah. But then he says, no matter. Balthazar says no. Yeah, he's like, yeah, whatever. Right, and then he just moves on. It's just a throwaway question. And he moves on. Immediately he goes to the fates, right? He's like, well, thus I refute these stars. I mean, he's not living on this planet, anymore. He's in, fate is, has positioned itself against me, and I'm going to fight to win. But he doesn't ask one of those basic questions like, really, is she dead? What happened? What'd she die of? Nothing like that. Nothing like that shows up. And then but then Juliet, who is different, I think is strikingly different in this end. She's dead too, but her death is completely different, and I think she makes a very calculated decision to die, in which she does the math and realizes that it's not worth being alive anymore if Romeo's not there. So she knows the conditions under which life is no longer worth living, which is actually a frightening calculation to be able to make.
It's weird that they teach this to kids.
What's that?
Isn't it weird? I mean, for years I was on the admissions committee, and I'd see their reading lists, and a lot of middle school 7th and 8th graders read this. And I think of all the parts you'd have to skip. The first 2 pages, absolutely. Well, yeah. But what you're saying, it's a pretty dark vision.
It's a really dark vision.
The notion of what you're saying about the fact that the end is tragic, whilst that seems like table stakes, like obviously it's a tragedy, but the nature of what that means and looks and sounds and feels like.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And I think I only teach it confidently because I have no confidence that the students in the room will really figure out what we're talking about. Like, they'll never come around to what Juliet has come around to, like the conditions under which life is not worth living.
She's one of those many Shakespeare characters that's smarter than most of us, and it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's okay. Like, we have to just be okay with it.